Well, good morning and welcome to the Underhood Show. My name is Josh Profit. I'm the service director here at Hambelton Ford. And alongside me today, got a special guest. We have Ryan Smith with BG Products. Good morning, Ryan.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
Good. How are you?
Thank you for joining me this for this podcast. And today we're going to talk about a lot of different things about BG, and we've got a list of things that we're going to go over. But then also, hey, this is a call-in show. 316-462-3673. That's the number to jump on the air here with us and talk about anything you want automotive. There's a lot going on out there. With new products and things like that. And so really anything automotive you want to talk about, or anything BG related that you guys want to want to discuss while we've got our special guest here with us today. Let's get the phones ringing. 316-462-3673. And then for each and every caller that calls into the show, we mail you out a package. Consists of about $130 prize package, but it consists of the works, which is an oil change and tire rotation. We use Motorcraft oil and filter products here at Hambelton Ford. While we're performing that, we're also going to complete a multi-point inspection on your vehicle, checking over, the brakes, tires, steering, suspension, all the safety-related components on that vehicle, and just make sure that it's ready to go for that next 5,000 miles of driving. You'll also receive yourself $10 to Mel's Diner, so you can get yourself something to eat and drink while you're here with us at the Big Corner. Complete nitrogen for your tires, so you get all the great benefits that nitrogen has to offer. And then a BG products package, which consists of a can of MOA or motor oil additive for your engine oil, and then a can of CF5 for your fuel system. Again, just getting that vehicle geared up and ready to go for that next 5,000 miles of driving. So let's get the phones ringing. 316-462-3673. So good morning.
Good morning.
So we were talking a little bit about the weather outside and how it's definitely starting to change and become a different season. Look a little bit different overall. So, Ryan, why don't you talk to the listeners about your experience with BG, kind of how long you've been with them, what your position is with them, things like that.
Cool. Yeah, my name is Ryan Smith. I work for BG Products, Kansas BG, distributor of BG Products here in town. And I've been with BG Products for 8 years now. It was actually 8 years in May.
Okay.
So 8 years and some months. I am the regional account director for the area. So I take care of local dealerships such as Hambelton Ford. I don't like to pick favorites, but but yeah, I've been with BG for quite some time. I was a service advisor before that, so I kind of grew up in the automotive industry. My father was a senior master technician for Ford, and so I grew up playing, with little matchbox cars on top of his toolbox. So I've just kind of grew up in a shop. I feel right at home. So
no stranger to the automotive industry for sure. So,
yep.
And so, one of the things that Phil and I love so much about BG and we just have a phenomenal partnership. But what you guys do as far as the research and developments on your products is second to none. Making sure that a consumer is getting what they pay for. Right. As the technology in these vehicles and as they advance, over the years, you're not just happy with one product.
Yes.
It's always being refined and studied and doing, trials on things. And the lab that you guys have, or the facility that you guys have for that, and the amount of money I'm sure that gets spent on the research and development side of it to make sure that those products, that what a consumer purchases is top notch. Is what makes BG what they are.
Absolutely.
And so in your time with BG, what do you think the number one, I guess, product is that you've seen change the most over that time? And maybe that's maybe you could circle back to that if I put you on the spot, and if you got to think about it a little bit, or if that's fine too. But
so I can throw one out there just to think of, and that would be probably transmission fluid.
Really?
Transmission fluid has changed a lot over the years, and every time an auto manufacturer changes something in a transmission, we have to change the fluid. So the additive structure in fluid is always changing. You never know what additives are going to be next, and so kind of touching on what you were saying with research and development. So anytime that a new vehicle comes out, we're getting our hands on that thing in the proving ground, and we're looking at what kind of fluids does it take, and where do we need to focus our time, where do we need to study more, and so we devote so much time and so many dollars into R&D, research and development, and partner along with our ISO certifications that we have. Quality is just second to none. And so if there's something new out there, we're gonna find out about it. We're gonna touch it, and we're gonna make sure it's the best. So transmission fluid has changed a lot over the years. That's something that we've had to adapt and overcome. Engine oil conditioners, kind of like the package that you guys provide with
the GDI service.
Yep, the GDI service. Also, just different things like power steering fluids. Kind of, it's gone away, so that's I won't talk about that too much. But coolant as well. Coolant properties have changed over the years. They're always changing the color. It seems these days. And now we're looking at things like electric coolant, non-conductive coolants, and things like that. So there's just so much that we're looking at.
Yeah, when you get into, so a couple things that you hit on there that I wanted to talk about, and I don't think a lot of consumers even know, but you had mentioned power steering services.
Yes.
And I don't think a lot of consumers even know that. I would say, pretty much all newly manufactured vehicles don't have a power steering fluid that goes with them. They've converted all to electric.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of different reasons for that. One, as vehicles move towards the hybrid type model, they needed a way to ensure that the vehicle still had the power steering or steering assist, but then for fuel economy and not having the drag of that pump and stuff on the belt, they had found that having an electric power steering system is more conducive to that.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think a lot of consumers understand or realize that power steering is fluid is really kind of a thing of the past in most cases.
Right. It absolutely is.
And then the other thing that you had mentioned is the cooling systems. As we transform or move from these internal combustion engines and go to a complete EV or a fully electric vehicle, or even the hybrids versions of these, what the manufacturers have to do to be able to keep those batteries either cooled or warmed up. In the winter months, you've got to keep that battery at an operating temperature, but in the summer months, or in high load use, you got to keep the batteries cool, and they're doing that with coolant, just like now it is a little bit different coolant than just the regular cooling systems that we use on ICE vehicles or internal combustion engines, but it is a thing.
Right. Yeah, and to touch on that as well, coolant in that flows past a battery, it has to be non-conductive, so it can't have water in it. There's something else that I found recently that was pretty cool, and it might, if anyone listening is an F-150 fan, the new all-electric Lightning. It's got two independent motors, one in the front, one in the rear, to act as front and rear differentials almost.
Yep.
They use an ultra low viscosity transmission fluid to lubricate, or not to lubricate, but to cool, to dissipate heat in those motors. So we're still using oil even in a
fully electric vehicle.
Right.
I don't think that's another thing that I don't think that a lot of consumers really understand the principle of really any fluid. Whether it's engine oil or coolant or transmission fluid or differential fluid, everybody thinks of oil as a lubricating process, properties, or that's what its job is, and it is. But the number one job of that fluid is to extract the heat out of the components.
Yes.
And I mean, if you think about that every time you start the engine, or every how many ever miles you put on it, all the heat that fluid is absorbing, when it's absorbing that heat, it's just breaking down the properties of the fluid, and it's deteriorating the fluid.
Yes.
And so people think of, for me, probably the biggest one would be like transmission fluid. I
Right.
mean, every time that transmission shifts, it's producing heat.
Yes.
And then you get, an owner's manual or a manufacturer that says it's lifetime fluid or it's 150,000 mile fluid or something like that. It's like,
Right.
I just can't fathom the amount of
Yes.
heat transfer that fluid is taken in that duration, and
Right.
how broke down it really is.
How expendable is that fluid? It's that's so funny that you say that, because lifetime, what is it? Is it my lifetime? Is it your
Yeah.
lifetime? Is it the car's lifetime?
It's the lifetime of the transmission, because when the fluid goes bad and it can't extract that heat like it needs to, and then it starts overheating the components on it, guess what? You need a new transmission, and that was the lifetime of it.
Right.
And you get new fluid with that new transmission. So
yes, that's true. That's true. I think your F-150 that you're driving right now, my F-150, they both have 10 speeds in them. They've got double the amount of clutches in them that they've had in the past. They've got an ultra low viscosity Mercon fluid in there, and Mercon ULV for short. And with all of that extra friction material, it just heats up and breaks down that fluid so much faster. And so it's just so imperative and so important that we service those types of components at regular intervals.
Yeah, very, very true. So, hey, let's get the phones ringing. 316-462-3673. That's a number to jump on the air here. And let's ask Ryan some questions about BG. So we've got some stuff over here on the other screen that I think Ryan was going to go through and kind of talk about a little bit. So I can pull that up. So take a look at your screens here, and we'll go through this morning. Obviously with the change of the seasons, we were talking about kind of services that consumers generally think of that are seasonal services. When you're coming into winter, I even hate to say that word, but it is right around the corner. With the, like I said, the way things are changing. There are a lot of consumers that think of coolant and freeze point. So I'll let you kind of talk about the cooling system service as well.
Absolutely. So exactly what Josh said, going into the scary months, winter, dun, 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 we're having to roll our clocks back, and we're having to wake up with it being dark outside and come back home when it's dark outside. And as those temperatures are dropping, and we start to get some ice and some snow and things like that, it is always imperative to check your vehicle's coolant and to have it professionally tested, have the pH of the fluid tested. So, is it more acidic? Is it more on the alkaline side of that pH scale? And then also checking for freeze protection, because coolant, also known as antifreeze, it's to keep it from freezing. It's anti-freeze. And so if that freeze protection is not present, you're going to have a bad time. So come on down to Mel Hambelton Ford. They can definitely test your vehicle's coolant. They can test your pH balance and the freeze protection, and see, just based off of time, knowledge, and history, if it's a component that's due to be serviced. So here on the website, you can see we've got Aaron in the proving ground using our BG MVP. This is the machine that Mel Hambelton Ford uses here. It's an excellent machine for evacuating all of that old coolant out there and installing new. And so here we have a little tidbit on our website: why service a cooling system. So as you can see that picture on the left there, I like to say it looks like a barnacle at Bikini Bottom on SpongeBob. It's Barnacle Boy. So we gotta clean those barnacles out of the cooling system. Those cooling system fins will get very clogged, and it'll restrict flow within the cooling system as those develop. So we have to go in there and clean those out.
So each one of these is a passage. That's a coolant passage, and coolant is flowing through that. And when they get blocked off, or then you're going to get hot spots. Or my other thing with that is if these particles break off and then go through the cooling system, what's that doing to the water pump? What's that? Is it plugging the heater core? It's plugging the radiator. Like they're not very big passages.
Right.
And then even now with the vehicles that we have that are turboed vehicles, that brings a whole nother light to that, is because you have all these fine coolant passages throughout the engine that goes to critical components like that. And, if the coolant's not allowed to get there, guess what you're doing? You're overheating it.
Right. And we have to dissipate that heat. I had a technician tell me one time, that deposits in a cooling system are kind of like cholesterol. And
Okay.
if you don't get those cleaned out, if you don't keep your diet where it should be, right, we might have a few extra visits to the doctor. And so it obviously we go in for routine checkups just like we do with our vehicles. But if we can prevent the bypass surgery from happening, we will. And so we'll go in, we'll clean the cooling system before something gets plugged. So.
Now, in a situation such as this, before you kind of scroll up, but in a situation such as this, where this is not a concern of freeze point.
No. So
you're not worried. This coolant could still test perfectly fine on freeze point.
Correct.
And that's what trying to get consumers to understand is, they advertise this coolant for, again, lifetime coolant or 100,000 mile coolant or 150,000 mile coolant. A lot of times what they're advertising that coolant for is the freeze point,
right?
That it protects the vehicle to that. And so, in this particular situation or with the coolant in this vehicle, it's probably not going to freeze. Like we don't really change out coolant much anymore because of freeze point. There are situations or circumstances where you do that, but for the most part, it's the acidity level that we're looking for, and that's what causes, like this picture that you see here.
Absolutely. So scrolling down, we've got the BG products that Mel Hambelton Ford will use with their Ford coolant and the BG cooling system cleaning kit. Everything that BG does is clean and condition. We believe very strongly in it's kind of like shampoo and conditioner, right? If you're going to clean it, why wouldn't you condition it? If you're going to wash your hands, why wouldn't you put some lotion on, especially in the winter months, your skin starts to crack. But clean and condition is the words that we live by at BG, and so that's kind of why we suggest a cooling system service, especially headed into wintertime, is to keep those costly water pumps away. So
this machine here looks space aged. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes. There's turbo thrusters on the back of it. It's pretty fast,
and a flux capacitor somewhere. So the one of the other points that I want to get across is the exchange rate in what you guys have. So let's talk about somebody doing a coolant service, or really, I mean, any one of your services.
Yes.
Compared to a what you would call like a drain and refill.
Yep.
Perfect.
So traditional service that you might find in an owner's manual or something like that might say a traditional drain and fill. And what that means is we're simply just draining the radiator, which is pretty difficult to do these days, especially on the newer trucks like yours and mine.
Yeah.
But a drain and fill, not only does it make a big mess, but it only gets partial of the coolant out. It doesn't get the entirety of it, and you're definitely not cleaning or conditioning the system. And so, when you drain and refill a cooling system, it's better than nothing. I'm not going to lie to you, but when you perform a BG MVP cooling service, you're getting 100% of that old coolant out of the system. You're drawing a vacuum on the system. They're going to draw that vacuum on the system anywhere from 3 to 5 times until all of that old coolant is out and all new antifreeze is put in. We're going to balance the pH in that fluid so that it can last the test of time. We're going to put that conditioner, which is also, it's like a multivitamin. It's a supplement for the coolant, if you will, to make sure that coolant goes the next 30 to 60,000 miles with no issues. So yeah, exchange rate, that's very important. No mess, and also more efficiency.
Just doing a very thorough job is, again, not that a drain and refill is, I don't want to say bad. You're just putting you're not doing as good of a job as what you should be doing in order to, most consumers think of coolant with freeze point, and that's not really the thing that you're after. It's the pH level, and to be able to get that correct throughout the whole cooling system and have the benefits of the long-term coolant, it's the higher exchange rate is much better for the consumer.
Yes. Think of it almost as the bathtub reference.
Yes.
So if you've got a bathtub full of dirty water and you drain half of it out and you put half new back in,
you still have dirty water.
Exactly.
You still have half dirty water.
Yes.
Well, we've got a call, so we're going to go to the phones here, and we're going to talk to Jason. Jason, you're on live with Under the Hood. Good morning.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Good
We're doing
morning.
great.
So, question. So I have a 2015 Ford F-150, and
Uh-huh.
it's got the auto start and stop on it. Are you better off turning that off? Because isn't that hard on the engine every time that you start and stop with that thing? Because wouldn't that ruin your starter?
So Jason, that's a great point, and that thing came out here in around about 15. I think it started a little bit before that, but when it very first came out, it was out on some other models a little bit sooner than that. But a lot of consumers, that's one of the very first things that they when it very first came out is like, hey, this is going to ruin my starter or ruin my battery or whatever. And I tell you, in obviously with them being out since 15, we've seen a lot of different vehicles, and I can't think of really. I could probably count on one hand, maybe both of them, the number of starters that we've replaced. Starters are not something that you just wear out much anymore. They do put a little bit different starter on it for the auto start stop, and they also put a larger battery in the vehicles that are equipped with that. But I can understand as a consumer why you would think that, but there's no backing as far as research on what we see actually live in the shop that promotes that it wears that stuff out faster.
Hey,
So is
Jason.
it better just to have it on then and turning it off?
I would definitely run with it on. You get the benefits of the fuel efficiency for sure.
Okay.
And I think from the consumer standpoint, um, a lot of them were maybe um, more concerned about the feel, the smooth transition from start to stop with the engine shutting off. And then the other side of it, you can get on the earlier models like the climate control and stuff. You'll notice a little bit if it's a really hot day or the AC dies out just a little bit, or if it's really cold, that the heat side of it would die out just a little bit. But the newer models now, I mean, you hardly even notice them kicking on and off, and they've got the climate control and stuff like that really ironed down or smoothed down for sure. So
Okay, well, good to know. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
but then before you go, I think Ryan was going to talk a little bit about the BG side of that or whatever too. So
Jason.
Oh, okay.
So Jason, just addressing your question about auto stop start. So my pickup truck, it's a 2020 F-150, and it also has auto stop start. I've got that little button up in the top right to turn it on and off.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if I'm towing or something like that, I might turn it off. But other than that, I leave it on. One thing you want to look at. So Josh did touch on this. Ford puts a beefier starter into the F-150 because they are expecting a little bit extra wear and tear, but they cover for that. Now, auto stop start, just given that it does start the engine more times than you typically would, it puts a little bit more strain on your engine oil. And so that's why it's so imperative to make sure your engine oil is changed 5,000 miles with that full synthetic motorcraft and a BG MOA conditioner. Make sure that engine oil lasts the test of time and make sure we don't wear it out prematurely.
Well, and we can even talk about that too, is that, every time that engine shuts off, so where your breakdown in your oil is coming from, so the engine shuts off, but then the injectors have already sprayed fuel into the cylinders. That fuel washes down through the rings and into the oil, and again breaks down the oil overall. But that's where the simplest thing you can do to maintain a vehicle is that 5,000 mile interval. And I understand as a consumer, the day to day you get in the day to day, and I'm focused on going to work or getting kids to school, or I got to go here and I got to do this and I got to do that, and then you look up and you're like, how did we get 6,500 miles on this oil change? How did that happen? But I just cannot express that that is the most simplest service. It's not super painstaking to have done or to get taken care of, but it is to extend the life of a vehicle. That's going to be the one that's going to do it the most, is just change the oil on it.
Well, I've had my truck for 2 years now, and I always bring it to you guys to have the oil change every 5,000. I do it religiously, so you're absolutely right.
Awesome.
Yep. Well,
and you guys do an awesome job. And I come from Augusta to have you guys service my vehicle because that's how much I trust you guys.
Well, we certainly appreciate the business, and thank you for the call. And on that auto start stop, to me, it's uh, from a mechanical standpoint of the vehicle. I understand what you're saying, but we've seen it long enough, and there's not been any history of a lot of starters wearing out and stuff like that. And I just to me, that is more of a consumer desire as to whether you want that thing on or off. There are aftermarket programmers out there that you will
Right.
disable it completely. But man, when you talk about tuning something or modifying it from factory, like, you're taking a lot of risk as a consumer when you do that, just because you don't know what the adverse effects or other effects could be from changing that stuff. So
Yeah. No, I want my truck up to specs. So I would never do that. So
yep. Well, very good, Jason. Appreciate the call, and thanks for listening, and thanks for being a customer.
yeah, thank you guys. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you, Jason.
Again, 316-462-3673. That's the number to jump on the air here with us and talk about whatever you want to, anything automotive related. So we've kind of touched on the cooling system and what that does, and then we've touched on the getting the oil changed. I think we could maybe even talk a little bit about while we're on the subject of oil, would be the GDI service. And let's say you are one of those consumers that you've driven that vehicle and you look up and, oh man, we're at 7,500 miles, or we're at 8,000 miles, and we didn't change, we haven't changed our oil. What's a good service that we should be performing periodically, but then especially if you've overextended your oil life just a little bit?
That is a good point. So that GDI service, it's for everyday consumers like you and me. We drive a lot. We drive to work. We drop the kids off at school. We take them to their appointments. We're so busy. We're always doing stuff. We're always using our vehicle, and we rely on that vehicle so heavily, more than we even realize. And sometimes that little sticker up in the window that we got from Mel Hambelton Ford, we look up at it and I'm 500 miles over when I should have changed my oil. And so not to be of any worry or any large concern. However, when you do come in, if you have gone over on your oil change, there is a service that we can perform on the vehicle. It's called the GDI service. So the EPR, Engine Performance Restoration Service, is the first product in that package. And what it'll do is it'll help to clean out the piston rings of the vehicle. It's going to help to clean all the oil galleyways and everywhere where oil touches. Make sure we shampoo the motor, as what I like to say. It's not a shampoo, but I like to use that as a metaphor. Definitely clean some of the carbon, as you're pointing out right there, the carbon packing on the piston rings. You can see it before on the left.
So yeah, I got it on this side over here. This is before, and then this is the after over there.
Yes. That oil, it's like we were talking about earlier. It's designed to go 5,000 miles, and any amount of miles that you go over that, you start to be on borrowed time. So we don't want to stretch it out too long. We don't want to burn off too much oil and starve the top half of the engine or anything like that. And so that's why it's important after you clean the motor to also condition the new oil with BGMOA. And that's BGMOA is actually part of the package. When you call into the show, that's part of the package that you get with that Works oil change. And so it's a multivitamin. It's a supplement. It's almost like a steroid for the engine oil to make sure that Motorcraft oil can last the test of time until you get back to the service.
Yep.
I like it because one time I went on a road trip and I went over on my oil change, and I started stressing out. Like, I don't know if I'm going to get back to the shop in time. Am I going to have to see a different shop? I really like seeing Mel Hambelton Ford. I don't know that I want to stop at a different Ford store. And I was glad that I had that MOA in there that gave me that protection to get me to the dealership.
To where you needed to be.
Right. And then last but not least, that 44K BG Platinum for the fuel system cleaning for the GDI systems, just because those injectors are facing the fire, they're inside the combustion chamber, and any fuel deposits are burned onto the tips of those injectors. And I like to use that shower head reference. Has anyone listening ever had their shower head clog, right? with the water deposits on it and calcium deposits. The injectors are very similar in those small little injector pintles, those little injector holes. They will clog with fuel deposits, and so we do have to keep those things nice and tidy.
One of the things that you had brought up or mentioned is when we're talking about the MOA and the 44K and the EPR, and we're looking at the car or working on the car from a lot of different aspects there. We've got we're cleaning it, the shampoo and conditioner, but then we're also working with the fuel system to make it better and improve it as well. And it is a great service for sure. And we recommend those, periodically as well. But especially if you're going over on your oil change interval and stuff like that. So, as a company as a whole, so BG Products in general, what do you, and I guess I kind of have the answer to this already, but what do you have the most products for? What system of the vehicle?
Oh man, I would have to say
my answer would be the fuel system.
I would have to say fuel. We do have a lot of products for fuel. So yeah, how many? If I had to count, I don't even think I could count them on one hand.
Yeah. Well, and then by the time you add, diesel to it and all your dryers and cleaners and, stuff like that there's a lot of fuel products that you guys have to offer. And so being able to decipher that you need to see the professionals or seek the professionals to make sure that we're getting the right products from there. But I was also even going to take that kind of one step further. And earlier in the show, we talked about, the maintenance manuals or owner's manuals and what they say for service intervals and how, we use the example of transmission fluid and that there's several manufacturers out there that say, 150,000 miles or lifetime transmission fluid or whatever from there. But you guys have really have something that happened to you not that long ago that you should be very, very proud of. And that is the manufacturer backing from Chevrolet for your guys' products.
So that is something that I think it's I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But definitely, working with auto manufacturers, such as Ford and Chevrolet, we have such a great partnership. And so for us to be able to, I'm a Ford guy myself, so I like to support the OE and I love using BG products in my Ford, and my wife has a Chevy, and so we're very partial to Ford and Chevy, but we do partner very well with the OE brands.
Gotcha.
And so if you drive a Ford, if you drive a Chevy, I mean, even if you drive an import too or a German car, we can still do services on those. But
even to add on to that, to me, it's almost like it went maybe almost full circle. So years ago, maintenance was a thing, and you changed oil every 3,000 miles, and you did these services because you had to. If you didn't, 100,000 miles, a vehicle was in the junkyard. And then the manufacturers really kind of reined back on maintenance in general, and then they put the oil life monitors on them, and they let the vehicle go 10 or 20,000 miles before it would even say, hey, you need to change your oil. And it's like, man, driving a car 15,000 miles on an oil change, that's crazy. Not to mention the rotation of the tires or, having a certified technician look under it or anything like that.
Right.
But you're almost starting to see a swing come back around on the other side of it. Like my example of that is brake fluid services. Years ago, you would never see a brake fluid service in an owner's manual, but now the manufacturers are coming in and saying, hey, we need to get these things serviced.
Right.
And so I do believe that there's starting to see, hey, we've got to get service intervals into these vehicles.
Yes, absolutely. And to touch on what you were saying with Chevrolet, Chevrolet, they recognize that fuel system service does need to be performed on the vehicle as early as 15,000 miles. 15,000 miles is when GM is seeing that those injectors are starting to clog, kind of like we were talking about earlier, and so they are starting to partner with, preventative maintenance companies to help clean those types of technologies. So that's a good point that you bring up there.
Very good. Very good. Well, hey, 316-462-3673. That's the number to jump on the air here. And yeah, if you've got a question for Ryan or myself in regards to anything automotive, let's get the phones ringing. Again, 316-462-3673. So, the other thing that I slated or that I wanted to talk about was going back to, and I even hate to talk about it, but this time of year where it starts cooling off, what I'm already starting to notice it is, the daylight side of things.
Right.
And so it's starting to get dark a little bit earlier and
Yes.
starting to stay dark just a little bit longer in the mornings and stuff like that. And man, every year this time of year, headlight restorations come to my mind all the time, especially with, we're in deer season, and that's just going to get worse. But man, what a difference a couple of seconds of reaction time would make one way or the other on an impact or a collision or avoidance. And man, just to be able to see is huge.
Right.
And so let's talk about the headlight restoration service that BG has to offer, and we'll kind of go through that.
Perfect. So yeah, just like Josh said, as daylight savings time is coming to an end, and we have less daylight within the day, it is very important to be able to see at night. It's good to have your wiper blade service at this time of year, especially going into the rainy months and the colder months. So if your wiper blades are chittering and chattering, it'd be something that you want to change out. But to pair with wiper blades, I'd say the headlight restoration service is a great pairing with that, because they're both for visibility. And speaking of visibility, who listening in on the call has had a headlight on a vehicle look like the one that's on the screen right now? It's kind of hazed over, a little bit glazy. It was shiny when we bought it, but after driving in traffic, that headlight, the plastic on the outside of that headlight does oxidize. And oxidation is just the aging due to oxygen. It's just a very simple term, but those oxidized headlights, you have to restore them or replace them, and sometimes replacing them can be very, very costly, especially if they're a high intensity discharge headlight, or if it's an LED headlight. I mean, I've had to replace them before. I know the price.
Yeah, they the other day we were walking some used cars and had to replace a couple of headlights, and man, it blows me away, some of the cost of some of this stuff sometimes. And it's like, man, I just want a headlight. And
Right.
I think of years ago, you talk like an 84 or something like that. It's just an old square beam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I will tell you too, that as a consumer, being in that 84 old square beam and what your visibility is out of that versus being in a 2022,
Yes.
F-150 with the projection headlights and
Yes.
what the visibility is out of that. I mean, it's just, I don't know, you being in this industry and getting to drive kind of all the different vehicles on multiple days. You could be in one vehicle and then 30 minutes later be in another one, and just the difference in the headlights, it's huge. And again, I go back to that, giving yourself one more second of reaction time or response time, and that's the difference of hitting something and not.
Right.
And so I think headlight restoration is a huge benefit to a customer, a very important service to a customer. And it's like, I use the example of it, the same thing for, an ABS system or a airbag system, or, you don't need any of that stuff until you need it.
Yes.
And then when you need it,
it's
whatever it would have cost, you would have paid for it.
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, you could drive 99.9% of the time without your airbags, but when an airbag needs to go off, like, that's a life-threatening deal.
Yes.
And at that moment, you would have paid whatever to have it fixed,
Right.
or to be taken care of. And so I view headlights as that same thing.
Yes. Today, driving over here this morning for our podcast, had to turn the headlights on. so that other people can see me coming. If you know, and if I'm behind somebody or someone's behind me, I can see them coming. And yeah, it's just so imperative to have your headlights clean, clear. And with this kit, we'll basically resurface the headlight and add an additional clear coat. We'll sand them professionally. And they look all like new after we're done. It's amazing for just a fraction of the cost of
what a headlight cost.
Yeah, you can practically put new headlights on your vehicle, so to speak.
So talk to me a little bit about, because you see these advertisements on TV all the
Right.
time of a guy that does it in the segment of a TV commercial, and
Yes.
it's new and shiny. Like what's different about what you offer versus what that guy has to offer?
Absolutely. So a lot of headlight kits that you might find, on the shelf or maybe on eBay or something like that, you have to have a professional buffer or sander, and you have to know exactly where to hit the headlight, and
Pressure.
you have to how much pressure to apply, because there is such a thing as too much.
Yeah.
And you don't want to wear too much into the plastic. You don't want to sacrifice DOT standards when you're finishing headlights. And so sometimes the DIY kit doesn't quite get where you need it to be, and it doesn't last as long either. So when using a professional use only product, we're going to know exactly how much pressure to apply, where to apply it. And then also the professional grade sealant on the headlights is something that you just can't get over the counter. This is something that a technician would have to apply.
And I would 100% say with this product specifically is you're going to get what you pay for.
Right.
If you buy a kit for, $35,
right.
Next time you wash your car, you're going to need another $35 kit.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
and again, this just talking about this with the upcoming season and what this so I look at this as really twofold. We do it on a lot of used cars when we're reconditioning them and stuff, just from the appearance factor, of how much better it makes the vehicle look, having the clarity of the headlights versus not. So, well, very good. So let's see. We went through cooling systems. We talked about the GDI service. We've talked about the headlight restoration. One of the other things that I wanted to bring up or wanted to visit about was tires coming into this time of year.
Yes.
This isn't a BG thing by any means, other than the nitrogen. We do supply nitrogen in our tires here at Hambelton Ford as well, but for the end of this month, so I got to pull up the dates here, and I'm kind of letting the cat out of the bag here too. So,
you got something up your sleeve, huh?
So, the Kansas City Ford FDAF market has put a tire sale out there. So we're going to have a buy 3 get 1 free promotion that starts on the 26th and goes through the 30th. So, man, if you need a set of tires, this is the thing to do. And so when I say buy 3 get 1 free, like we're not marking up the other 3 to cover the expense of the 4th one. It is a buy 3 get 1 free. So yeah, if you're needing a set of tires going into winter, don't run with what you have. Don't chance that. Definitely take advantage of this offer for sure. So be sure, if you're questioning where you're at, swing by, let us take a look at them and evaluate them, and we can, look at some different options. That way, when this sale or promotion does come up, we'll have them here in store for you, ready to go on what you're wanting to put on there. So definitely take full advantage of that if you're right on the borderline or need a set of tires or know somebody that does need a set of tires. Get that taken care of. So, and then the other thing that I wanted to talk about as well, which we've talked about your guys' research and development and what you put into that. And this is something at Hambelton Ford specifically, we don't really do, I think, a good enough job of explaining or talking about. It is a benefit that to a customer or consumer, and we've found a couple of different consumers that were in a need of this service that you guys have. But another thing that BG does is stand behind their product.
Right.
So talk to
right.
me a little bit about, how confident in your guys's services that you are.
Absolutely. So, two different sides to that coin. So with any time that you buy a BG product, you're getting a lifetime protection plan with that product. And what this means is basically, we believe, like you said, Josh, BG products, we believe in our products so much that we stick our neck out for the consumer. We know that if you have a failure within a specific system, like your power steering system or your fuel system, brake system, differential, any system that you service basically with BG, you've got up to anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 in lifetime protection dollars. So that's free money, with a capital F, free money that you can take advantage of just by purchasing the service. So
Which is absolutely crazy to think that I can go, do a transmission service for my vehicle for however much and know that I have so much in coverage on the backside of that.
Yes.
Like that, for you guys to stand behind that, that's crazy.
Right. And also, so the lifetime protection plan, anytime, if you're under 75,000 miles and you come into Mel Hambelton Ford, get that system service, you not only have those dollars, but if you buy a used car from Mel Hambelton Ford that has under 120, you can also get some BG coverages put on that vehicle as well, just because the products are installed in the vehicle before they hit the road.
Yeah. When we put it out on the lot, we put a kit in every car, just to make sure that again, when we recondition a car, we want to make sure that it's right out there. And that's the thing, and being in this industry or in the automotive industry in general, is that every car is going to break. It's just a matter of when and where and why, and that's why we sell extended warranties and stuff like that. But you will, and I promise you, you will minimize your repairs by doing good, thorough preventative maintenance. I mean, I walk through the shop time and time again, day after day, and just looking at different repairs and different jobs and stuff like that. And I see so many that could have been avoided with good preventative maintenance.
Yes.
From that side of it. So
absolutely. So a good service and peace of mind while you're driving for the next 6,000 miles or 6 months, whichever one comes first.
And this, the lifetime for protection plan. So if that's something that is done here at the dealership, obviously, and you have we do a coolant flush, and later on you have an issue with a water pump or something like that. I mean, we take care of that with BG, and we work hand in hand. That's something that a consumer doesn't even have to mess with by any means. So let's say they're not in the area or not around here. How do they find BG products? How do they obtain that?
So if you were like a caller that was earlier on the show, if you're like Jason and you live in Augusta and you were on a road trip and you weren't able to stop into Mel Hambelton, you can always find a BG shop on bgfindashop.com. But if you're in the area, you're on the west side of Wichita, come see us.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Well, Ryan, hey, I will kind of wind things down here, and I greatly appreciate you coming in and taking the time and visiting with us and informing the consumers on BG and what all you guys have to offer. Again, I love the partnership that we have. I think it's a great partnership indeed. For sure.
Yes.
And so I greatly appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. And so left a 2-month-old newborn at home. So gotta be quick to get back home to that. And so, but that, like I said, I can't thank you guys enough at BG for what you guys do for the, for our customers as well as for us, and the products and support that you guys have to offer. So, but with that, let's thank our sponsors, which is going to be so Big Corner Creative for all your marketing and advertising needs. Anything websites, designs, or traditional or conventional advertising. Big Corner Creative. So as they say, just Google us, BG Products, all the great preventative maintenance that we have right here inside Mel Hambelton Ford to help your vehicle go as many miles as you would like it to go. And then Go To Rent. So if you're looking for something larger, we talked about changing the seasons, and Thanksgiving is going to be right around the corner. And unfortunately, Christmas is not going to be far behind that either. So if you're looking for something larger, vehicle for traveling, or need to go out of town and want to save the miles on yours, get a hold of Stan right here inside Mel Hambelton Ford at Go To Rent. So everybody have a great weekend, and we will talk to you next Saturday.